Thank you very much. Take care. Bye. Sorry, Peter, I was not expecting that.
That's quite all right. How are you?
Oh, how am I? Am I alive? Yes. That was a 30-minute interview by a woman who, a journalist who, just one more question. If I could ask you, and it was, stuff that you go on automatic and answer,
Right, well, as I said to you in the, that email I sent you, I'm not a professional interviewer, so this is more of me just kind of... Yeah, I know, the joys of Skype. You've got yourself positioned in front of a beautiful piece of art there, you see, whereas I've got...
Well, Debbie came home one night with that. She'd been out to a restaurant in Retford, and she came home with this, and... my first question was, did you have a lot to drink? Anyway, so that was just put that there. Right, I can see you now. You're full screen.
Fantastic.
I can take a snapshot of you.
So, just sort of the housekeeping bits of all this. First of all, thanks so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. I understand. I know how busy you are, and because I follow you on Twitter, you're always busy.
You don't know how busy it has just got, I tell you.
Really? Well, that's a good thing, though, yeah?
Well, I guess, yeah. The oddity is we're not allowed to tell anybody. Debbie has just walked out the door. She's gone up to Manchester as part of a recording for a series she's got involved with that will involve me on the last night. We can't tell anybody.
Right.
3 weeks ago, she recorded a week-long series of shows, and they're going out in October, I think, and we can't tell anybody. I've just signed up to do a series of shows that I can't tell anybody. What's wrong with these people? Don't they want publicity?
Well, yeah. And are these all magic-based things, or...?
No. That's the peculiarity. I'll go and work in Las Vegas. I'll switch this up. Oh, it's my wife. I won't, yes. And, hello, darling. Yes, why? Go on then, give it to me fast. Give it to me fast. Go. Yeah. Well, that's down to you, darling. Leave it to you. Bye. Bye. I'll switch this off. That's my organising wife. She's really good.
Well, that's kind of... There you go. There's one of the questions out. How do you keep yourself organised? And there's the answer.
You have to switch off. Good. What you have... If you want to keep yourself organised, you really have to use the technology. But I would add to that a written diary.
Yeah.
Sometimes... I mean, these are wonderful and fabulous and all that jazz. But sometimes you'll be out of battery, out of range, out of whatever, and that will be the moment somebody asks you. The other thing about a diary, diaries are interesting. Just imagine that this is my diary, okay? And somebody comes at me and says, what are you doing on September the 15th? I will go, I'm free. On the other hand, I could plough through the menus on here until I found it, then use the wheel and scroll down. Trust me, this is faster for answering.
Yeah, I must admit, on the number of double bookings I've taken because the calendar on the computer hasn't synced up with the calendar on the phone, and I'm taking bookings on the phone, and we're a bit of paper and pencil.
Well, you never phoned me up and said,
What can I do with the diary situation? So, with all of this, I mean, this is kind of a weird one for me, because this is a sort of project that I decided to sort of embark on purely, totally selfishly, really, and then figured I would put it online onto a site for people. And it's for magicians, but it's really about the sort of business and creative side and productivity side of it, because I think magicians are fundamentally get overpaid for not doing a great deal nowadays a little bit, and I think we can be slightly more inventive with the way we do business, you know, and sort of the way we work.
I did an interesting experiment for me. I have never understood it when financial advisors come to me and they say, now, Mr. Daniels, we're going to show you how to handle your money. And I think when they do that, just a minute, I've got more money than you.
Yeah.
I want a multi-millionaire to come and tell me how to handle my money, how to handle my business. Those are the people you should be listening to. Now, by the same token, magicians are very strange people, aren't we? But what it is with magicians is they seem to be blissfully unaware of the divisions in magic. There are big divisions. There is the world of the amateurs, and they all believe they are better than me. And I know that because when David Nixon was the television magician of his day, I knew I was much better than him. And that's a real eye-opener once you realize you are really not. You really are not. The difference is enormous between doing it even as a semi-pro,
yeah,
and taking that dive into the world of show business where you have to be good at not necessarily the magic, but the stagemanship, the showmanship, the salesmanship. That's where you've got to be good.
And do you think there's a lot of this, because at the moment there's a lot of the stuff, a lot of magic now that's is marketed really for YouTube, isn't it? I mean, it's this kind of stuff that's got absolutely no showmanship and no engagement about it.
Now, the sad oddity of YouTube, which I think is wonderful, but except for the sadness, is when it comes to our profession. And I hope this applies also to the comedy guys, that they look at the down market comedians and all that. But you get these kids now can stand in front of one of these. This is just on my laptop, and I've got one in here. I've got a flip camera somewhere. You can just stand in front of that and do a magic trick.
Yeah.
But you haven't learned about the lighting. You haven't learned about camera work, camera editing. In this case, you see, I would never do a show just stuck on one camera. But I talk on YouTube on one camera.
Yeah. With the Tales from the Shed.
Yeah. That story. I must do some more, but I'm just so busy. I haven't got time to get in there.
Yeah. And this is interesting for me as well, because I didn't know about Tales from the Shed until an hour ago when you said you would do this interview now, when I thought you'd be saying I'll do it in 2 months' time or not at all. So I thought, oh, Christ. So I better get onto Google, better get looking. And I found the Tales from the Shed. And
but what you just said is interesting also. If you want something doing, you should always ask a busy man.
Yeah.
And because we all us busy guys, have this thing. Just do it.
Yeah.
Just do it. Get on with it. I'm guilty on my blog this week. I've written I put something off till tomorrow I shouldn't have done because the weather changed and I couldn't do it. So it's best to just get on with it, get it over and done with.
And with the stuff that you're doing online, which is, you're actually doing more online than the majority of the new generation of magicians, should we say, who are kind of brought up in the online environment. I mean, you do a blog, you do the video blogging with the kind of Tales from the Shed thing. So I've got to ask you, why do you do it? Why? 'Cause you don't need to do this. You don't need to be as open as you are about who you are and about. So why do you do it?
I find technology interesting. I find that was a Twitter, by the way, if you look at it. I find technology interesting. I find that instead of having to write 500 emails to fans and things, I can just go on Twitter and they're all getting it.
Yeah.
What about now? I've got a lot of followers. I've got about 26,000.
That's pretty good.
So it's not bad, is it, for a conjurer? And so, but also it sells tickets.
Yeah.
I tell my fans where I am, and in the shows, in the live shows, most times, not always, I forget sometimes, but most times I say I'm on Twitter. I've linked Twitter to Facebook.
Yeah.
So the two go out together, although I rarely look at Facebook. It's too messy, I find.
Yeah, I'm the same, actually, I have to say.
I like the simplicity of Twitter. It's there, it's done, it's gone. What else do I do? I think also it's a very fast way to get information out. I did a university show, and a guy on there said to ask the audience, because I like questions, they said, what happened to the elephant? And he was far too young. And I said, how do you know about the elephant? And he said, it's on YouTube. Now, that's the good and the bad.
Yeah.
The good is I've now got a whole young audience.
Yeah.
They can't see me on TV. And the bad is I don't get paid for that. And that really hurts.
But, yeah, I suppose, but you know, you got paid for it when you did it originally, didn't you? So.
Yes, I don't agree with that. That's the European law.
Right.
Nowadays, you go on television and you do not get any more remuneration. But the TV company, who all they have to do is put the disc in or the hard drive and go play, they are getting paid.
Yeah.
And if they're getting paid, surely the people on the screens should be getting paid.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, it's kind of a weird. It is a weird thing at the moment with the whole internet setup, isn't it? Because I mean, as you said, for you, the benefit is say if you do a college show and they're a young audience and they kind of go, so Paul Daniels, I know the name, but they look up and they go, right, I'm definitely going. I just saw him make an elephant disappear. I'm going.
I can understand that, but I have lots of parallel lines here. Laurel and Hardy. There was a comedian teamed up with Dean Martin called Jerry Lewis.
Yeah.
And Jerry Lewis found Stan Laurel living in a garret because he had no money. Right?
Yeah.
And yet his films were on every channel in America morning and afternoon. So Jerry Lewis went to the High Court, Supreme Court, and they decreed that the man should be paid if you're using his talent.
Yeah.
And I think that's fair. And Stan saw his days out in some comfort.
Yeah.
A parallel with that in England, if you want to know about show business, was I have a friend. Surprise, huh? I have a friend. And in the 1940s into the 50s, he and his brother were headliners. Top of the bill. Radio shows in those days, stars, okay? So along came television and they got it. And so since 1960, I would say he hasn't earned any money. And he's over 100 now.
Right.
That's a long time to go back to your daytime job of being a welder or a plumber or whatever, you know? And it's a peculiar business. If you don't plan on your retirement years, your older years, you're in deep trouble.
And you know, this is something that I know you talk about this in your masterclass, don't you? And you're a kind of a follower of the richest man in Babylon theory, I believe, which is.
That was amazing. The richest man in Babylon theory came as a bit of a shock to me because I was told about it when I was 32. The principle.
Yeah.
I think The Richest Man in Babylon is actually a sort of novel built around the system. I don't believe in The Richest Man in Babylon, but I do believe in the system.
Yeah.
And the system does work. And we all think, oh, well, you know, tomorrow. But it's not, you got to do it now. You got to do it every time you get paid. Every time.
I just suppose, you know, I mean, as a performer, you're always hoping that you're going to make the big time and that's when you can start saving for the future. When you make the big time.
No. Well, there's a great line in The Richest Man in Babylon where somebody says to him, "I can't afford to save 10% of everything I earn." And he points to somebody else. He says, "Well, he's earning less than you, and he's living." You know.
Yeah.
And we all spend what we get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with the stuff that you are extremely sort of open with this, you're very generous with the information that you provide. I mean, you did the master classes, you've done all of this stuff. Is it all still via Unedited? Is that still where the sort of soul?
Mayor bought all the rights to the discs.
Yeah.
At that time, and he's still selling them and still putting them out there.
And you were the first guy to really do it, or the first guy of any worth, as it were.
Well, that's it. We're back to the man who advises me on money.
Yeah.
And we're back to this difference between the amateurs who will revere somebody who's totally unknown.
Yeah.
Who's nobody's heard of, who isn't earning the big bucks.
Yeah.
And they'll poo-poo guys like me and Copperfield and all that who are earning the big bucks.
Yeah.
You guys nuts. You know, you should be listening and taking notes. I mean, certainly that's what I did anyway. My 10% principle came from a multimillionaire who told me about it.
And it works. It clearly works. And I got it because you passed that on to Mark Paul, I think, who's a good friend of mine. And Mark Paul passed it on to me, and I bought the book and read the book. Well,
let's do a plug for Mark Paul. He's just published an ebook with a very simplistic way to come up with today's date numerically. Have you read that? He's been opening with it for about 18 months.
Right.
And I have used it several times. It's a very good principle. I must get onto him and tell him, because there's a much easier way to calculate.
Well, I know he's out in China at the moment, I think. That's him. Yeah, he's a busy guy. He's another busy guy, a worker.
Not enough, Mark.
But so why did you bother? Why did you do the sort of masterclass again? It's this thing. What was your sort of? Why did you feel you needed to give back to a community which, let's be fair, hasn't always been kind? Because I mean, we always knock the people at the top, don't we? I mean, that's what
we do if we're British, dear.
Yeah, and it's the way we are, isn't it?
We don't have to be. I've just done an interview on the phone before you butted in.
Sorry, man.
And she was on about something, and I says, "Oh no, I really admire success. If somebody's successful, I want to be.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm better than you. Obviously, I'm doing something wrong." And that was the case when I did a summer season way back. I turned professional, and Michael Benting, comedian, very good after-dinner speaker and comedian, was doing a summer season at which he wasn't all that good, you know.
Yeah.
And in fact, he left a bit early. He knew, because he was a clever guy. And he was on, at that time, £800 a week, and I was on £200 a week. And I thought, what's the difference? And the difference was he was on TV. So I marketed myself onto TV. And in doing that, I didn't market myself onto a competition on TV. The current, Britain hasn't got any talent and X, Y, that kind of thing. I didn't go on them. I had been on them already. I was
going to say, you were new faces, wasn't it? Was your first sort of TV?
No, I was on Opportunity.
Sorry.
And I got a letter a couple of weeks beforehand saying I would come second.
Right.
And the bells went, "Oh, it's a fiddle."
Right.
And I've never trusted, and you shouldn't trust any TV competition since. There's a very good business if somebody wants it. You go to the government and you say nobody trusts the TV companies.
Right.
I want to set up an independent phone voting system, completely independent, and the TV companies have to get their results from us, and we will be publishing them on the internet, you know,
Yeah.
so people know us no fiddles.
They make too much money out of it, though. That's the problem, don't they?
Well, yes, they do, and so would you.
Yeah.
You need a government law to say, let's stop these fiddles. Have you read Charthrop by Ben Elton?
No.
Read it.
Yeah.
Read it, you will phone me up and you will say, Paul, thank you. I will never watch X Factor again.
So yeah, I take it from that you're not a fan of these of the talent shows.
I'm sick of watching amateurs on my television show.
Yeah.
It should be full of professionals who knew what they were doing. Part of my advice to young magicians has always been, look, don't watch magicians, you know. Go and watch star names who have been there a long time. There must be a reason why they're still working.
Yeah.
See if you can lock onto it. Now, I took my 18-year-old nephew, James, who, by the way, is a very good magician. Cabaret chat style, you know.
He has to be, though, doesn't he?
No, not really. He could be just as naff as anybody else, but he's good. I took him to see this show I'm currently touring, and he got the same shock I got. I believe, because of the media and the hype and all that the Crankies were old hat and rubbish. That woman makes an audience roll, scream, pour with laughter, you know, every night. Her body language, her timing, her looks, her stage walk and everything. There's a lot to learn from watching Jeanette Cranky.
Yeah. And there's, I mean, it's my only experience with this kind of thing personally has been with the after dinner, because I do a lot of corporates and we get to always stay and watch the after dinner speaker and you know, I've witnessed Bob Monkhouse do an after dinner and doesn't get any better, you know. I mean, it's and yet you see some of the younger comedians, the sort of names, really suffer.
I'm telling you, there's a guy who works comedy and magic out of Tonbridge, I think, and he'll turn up at a corporate job and say, who have you got on? And they'll name the newbie on the TV who's getting howls and screams when he uses F words and things. And he'll say to the controllers, you know, the show, the producers, the promoters, the bookers, do yourselves a favour and put me on last. Because these guys have not learned that every venue you do is different. Theatres are bigger. You have to make bigger gestures.
Yeah.
Cabaret, it's a bit tighter, a bit more neat. After dinner speaking, no matter how big the room, should be fairly intimate. You should be talking to heads, people. Television, you're only entertaining 2 or 3 people on a settee, aren't you? About 12 feet away. So the big stuff isn't the best stuff for TV. So
I mean, and now with the stuff that you're doing, I mean, I noticed. I mean, I didn't know you did motivational speaking. I mean, again, it was this kind of last minute thing. You've moved into the sort of speaking side of things.
No, I didn't move into it. I was asked to do it.
So right.
I did it.
And
the reason I was asked to do it was because of what you just said. I went out and I did, if you like, motivational speaking, the business of magic.
Yeah.
And the guy sitting in the audience in Leeds, and he said, I book people from America. And I pay them a lot of money, he said, and they only talk for 45 minutes. And he said, you've been up there for 8 hours. And I said, I have more to say than that.
And so, with the speaking side, I mean, what are you talking on the sort of the success side of things? Is that your, you know, because you've done it, you're kind of living proof that you can go from being a working men's club act to being the sort of as you know, to being the most successful magician of the 20th century. Is that what you talk on? Isn't it?
Well, the way it's going, probably of the 21st as well. No, what it is I will say to the company finds out and they come to me and they say they want their sales force whooping up, getting more excited or whatever. and I'll say, in what direction? What do you sell? Do they actually go out? Is it phone sales? Is it this? I know something about all forms of selling because I've been a pitch man.
Yeah.
You know, I pitched at ideal home exhibitions and stuff like this. I also know about theatricalities, so that something said from this side of the stage is more honest than something said from that side of the stage. And that's ancient Greek theatre found that out.
Yeah.
So I tell them, if they're doing a PowerPoint presentation, stand over here. Don't stand over here. It's these subtleties that will make a psychological difference to your audience.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of thing.
Okay.
If I'm asked purely to sell, like Mitsubishi asked me to sell their cars at the car show, then it's a different pitch altogether.
Yeah. And do you still enjoy the sort of creative side of that then? Is that what gets you out of bed in the morning? Kind of the creativity of it all still.
Yeah. Well, I think most fellas who were in the army will tell you, you know, when the bugle blows, you just roll out automatically.
Yeah.
Your eyes open and you roll, and you get that for a few years, and you become part and parcel of your life. I wake up, I get up. I can't see any point in staying in bed.
Yeah.
There's much to do.
But what is it that motivates you to do? I mean, let's be honest. If you wanted to, you could cut the grass every day, and you know, you don't have to be working, do you? You don't. I'm making that assumption. I mean,
no, you're right. But it's not that. I don't have to work every day. It's probably because I don't think it's work.
Right. You still enjoy it then?
I still love it. Sometimes the motorways can be a pain in the butt, but when I'm king, I have a system that's going to change all that.
Right.
You know, no lorries will be allowed on the roads during the daylight hours.
Okay.
They will travel at night and get out of my way. That will open up miles and miles and miles of freeway, motorway. Sorry, I'm in UK. So it's that kind of thinking. I think credit cards should be called debt cards, and then people would hesitate, wouldn't they? Would you like to pay cash for this, or would you like to put it on your debt?
Well, yes.
Good point. So it's all that kind of thinking. So I get up every morning, and I know. Forgive me. I know I've got emails, Twitters, Facebooks. Sometimes I catch up on blogging, that kind of thing, to get out the way within the first half hour.
Yeah.
Gone. Then I have to look at the online shop. We've got an online magic shop. At the moment, the online fancy dress shop and all that, all the prices have gone cockamamie on that. So I'm going to have to sort all that out, you know. I'm not going to sell you those 36-inch silks at the price that's up there now, I'll tell you. And so it's all of that's got to be done. I'm constantly thinking of ways of advertising the shop. It's in the Wigan area.
Yeah.
And just the last couple of days, I've been thinking of going up there. And although I can't do this now until February, I don't think, because I'm fully booked right through. So I'm thinking of going up there and doing a series of small lectures.
Right.
In the shop.
Okay. Which is certainly going to get people in, isn't it? I mean...
But if they're interested, yes. I have one of the things I've been talking about lately is I've gone right back to the beginning and picked up beginners' tricks and given them a different look, you know, a different way of doing them, as opposed to just buying the trick and doing it.
Yeah. For example?
Oh, hell's teeth. Just one moment while I become Superman.
Oh, you don't have to do it.
Yes, I do.
Oh, right, okay.
Otherwise, you think I'm talking to myself. sold just about everywhere, you know.
Yeah.
And it's a piece of rope. It used to be with a cigarette. Thank goodness those days have gone. And everybody buys this, pushes it through, does that, and then shows, you know, that it's cut through, and then they squeeze it and it's back together. And they think that's it, because most guys think the trick is the business.
Yeah.
And the trick isn't the business. So I'll do it on you. This is a piece of rope. It goes through there and through there. When I'm doing this, I frequently have two people, you know. Now, most pros would ignore this. It's sold on the market.
Yeah.
With this is a piece of rope. And then I said to them, and you can answer, have you ever heard of the Indian rope trick?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You remember the story well? The magician plays a flute, and the rope rises into the air. And then a boy climbs to the top and is dismembered and falls down and vanishes. Well, this isn't it. You see, this is the Chinese rope trick. Okay? You know how I know it's the Chinese rope trick?
No, Paul.
On here it says, made in China. It's the Chinese rope trick. And in fact, it's a Chinese chopper. Yeah. You know, when they go like that, I don't order a chop in a Chinese restaurant. They go, and they chop it, and it's chopped in two. And you can see the ends like that, you know, sorry. See the ends like that. So what I want you to do, and you to do, is you just hold that end for me, because it's chopped through here, and hold that end, and they do. And I say, now look, where it's chopped through, I can move that up here, or I can move it up here, or I can show you that in fact it's all back together again, and that is the Chinese rope trick. And that's much more interesting.
Yeah.
Than just going, I've got a trick.
And are you? I mean, I don't know what I was going to say then, because I wasn't expecting you to show me a trick. You caught me off guard there, Paul.
Voices in the post, I'm telling you.
So do you still enjoy looking? Are you enjoying going back to those things then and looking at them, saying right? So because I mean, I'm having been a street performer, which is my background. I'm also, I mean, I bang on about this on my blog about it not being about the magic.
Whoa. And a good street performer.
Thank you very much. Well, you have to be. There's no such thing as a bad street performer, because you won't eat. You don't last long if you.
I've seen some duff ones.
Yeah. But,
maybe I haven't seen them twice.
Right. Yeah.
I've even bunged you money, son.
Have you?
Yeah. Not a lot, but I've bunged you money.
If only I'd known. But so I mean, I've always believed that there's more to the magic than the trick, because I mean, I remember turning up in Covent Garden with something like 10 tricks that I thought would last me 40 minutes, and in the end it came down to 2, because it's what goes on around the trick and not in the trick itself. And are you enjoying that thing about going back and looking at stuff that most magicians would go, oh, I'm not using that? And do you find a kind of perverse pleasure in saying, well, actually, let's a professional have a look at this and see what we can do?
Exactly right. And the first one I worked on, unbelievably, was the 4 burglars.
Right.
That starts everybody up.
Yeah.
And I've got 3 hidden behind here, but I must go to the toilet to set up and all that, you know. And I did it just a couple of weeks ago for a magic type guy, and he's, how the hell did you do that? You know.
Yeah.
They know, you know. And there are people out there who know, but the vast majority of people don't. And they do like a story behind the magic.
Yeah.
And I picked that up from watching singers. There are 1,000 singers out there. But the ones that made it the most entertaining program for me was the ones who told the story behind the song and then into it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's about engaging with people, isn't it?
Yeah, hook them in.
Yeah.
Hook 'em in. And so that particular thing, I The Four Burglars is a very good story. I'm not too keen on the original method.
No.
But reading a book from 150 years ago, just the other night, I found the story that came before The Four Burglars.
Was that in the Erdnase?
The trick. Oh no, Erdnase is only 1905.
Oh, was it?
This was 1855, I think, 1856, around there. And I'm having great joy in finding these really ancient tricks.
Yeah.
One of the reasons is I'm selling off all these old magazines on eBay. And I'm encouraging young people to buy these, dive in and use your imagination rather than buy the latest thing from the dealer because everybody else has bought that.
Well, and everything that's being sold as modern is derivative of something that you could probably find in a magazine from 100 years ago anyway, isn't it? Pretty much. Yeah. I mean, there's very, very few new things out there, I think. But now, talking about material, actually, because you are, and I've had a personal experience with you on this, because I wrote to you years ago about a trick that I wanted to use in a cabaret environment. And you wrote me back, which was a surprise to me at the time. You got back to me, and a very direct and very polite letter saying no, which was perfect, which was great. And I know you've had a recent experience with the same effect, where
I think that I really like the principle that Billy McComb, Alan Jackson, Terry Seabrook, who's not doing very well at the moment, sadly.
Is Terry still in? Is he in LA or is he?
No, he's in hospital over here.
Oh.
There was another one, I can't remember, but certainly those three. They were magicians working in London professionally, and they got together, sat down, and said, "Look, we don't want to be doing the same stuff." So Billy got the coin in the bottle, and Alan got catching the fish, and stuff like that. They split it up. I bought, and I spent some time on it, I'll tell you. Ken Brooks sold a rising card, Nemo. Have you ever seen that in a plastic holder?
No.
It's a brilliant thing. And at the end, the punter is hold of it. And the envelope rises out, and then the card rises out of the envelope, okay? And you just take the envelope and the card at the same time, and give it, and they've got everything. There's nothing left. I must have practiced that, played with it, toyed with it, pulled it around for 6 weeks. And I went out and did a club. And it didn't go all that well.
Right.
And that surprised me, because I thought it was a great trick. And then one of the punters came up and said, "Well, there was a fella did that last week."
Right.
And I said, "Who was that?" And he said, "Bunny Neal." Did you ever come across Bunny Neal?
No.
Bunny was a working pro, came over here, used to walk on, tie a little bag of goodies around the mic stand. You love this as a street worker. And he would take out the razor blades without saying anything. Slice, eat, take a drink of water and go, "Good evening," and do his act. All right? And the last thing he did, he got the cotton and went, and they all came out. Beautiful. I admired him. He was a working pro. I never did the trick again.
Right.
Until he retired.
Yeah.
And then I did it on the Shirley Bassey show.
Okay. And
I believe that if you know a pro is working that routine, I believe you are fairly stupid to...
You're certainly not doing yourself any favours, as it were.
No. And then the other thing is, with the chair routine, which you're talking about, what people realise is, until I came along, nobody clicked the connection of sticking them to the chairs.
Yeah.
That's all mine. I wrote that.
Yeah.
There's been a whole hoo-ha recently about Keith Chedwin writing other people's jokes on
Yeah.
things. And what's the difference?
Yeah, no.
You know?
It is. I mean, it is. Magic's a very. I think I've lost you now. I think we've gone. Skype has done its thing. Hang on. No, you're back now. I think. I mean, one of the things possibly now is that magicians, the majority of professional magicians, the environment we work in, is close-up, wandering tables. So I mean, I don't know a single working professional that doesn't do an ambitious card routine, because it works so well in that environment. Very few magicians now do cabaret. I mean, there's very few professional. I mean, I could probably count on one hand the guys I would book who I think have got a good cabaret, and so possibly that's the
That's sad.
It is. I mean, whether it's sad for magicians, I think. I don't know. I think it's the environment that we're in at the moment, in the sense that we're booked. We're almost booked alongside. They go, oh, we've got the flowers, we've got the we've got the flowers, the bars paid for. Why don't we get some chap to wander around and do a few card tricks?
Because all they focus on is the tricks.
Yeah.
You see, you're back to that loop. If you only focus on, ooh, I've got a new trick. Ooh, look how wonderful this is.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. I mean, you've lost the entertainment plot.
Yeah.
And isn't it sad when every journalist comes on to me and says, would you class yourself as a magician or an entertainer? That's the state you've got us into, lads. Start climbing out.
Yeah, it's...
The other thing that upsets them is when I say, well, the reason they're doing close-up is because it's so much easier than walking on a stage.
Yeah.
And it is.
Oh, I mean, absolutely it is. I mean, it's... when the evening is riding on you... I mean, which is why we get you to do a cabaret. You can work for 20 minutes and earn 10 times that you get for doing 3 hours of close-up around the tables.
This is close-up.
Yeah.
That's all they get to see. Try walking on a stage and getting away with that. You would never be... They don't know how to walk. They don't know how to stand. They don't know... just crazy.
I mean, I suppose we're also it's a product of the marketplace as well, because just nowadays to try and get a magician to get a cabaret spot it's a hard sell now. I mean, it's because you are trying to chart. Your close up is bread and butter for magicians now, whereas I suppose when you were talking.
Whoa, close up and children's magic.
Yes, sorry. I mean, because that's not an area I get involved in. I've got 2 kids of my own. Enough for it. Yeah, that's it. I don't want to go out and entertain other people's. Thank you very much. Yeah, it is sad. It is, and actually, the cabaret magicians I do see are all doing the same stuff anyway. It's there is.
But enough of bandana.
Well, I mean, it is. It's tossed out deck, book test, cardiographic. I mean, all great tricks, but there's limited amount of imagination gone into it.
All right. I had a mobile shop. Okay, driving around these states selling groceries.
Yeah.
And they all knew I did magic and bits and bobs and all that. So, but before I turned pro, and a woman came on to my shop, and she said, "Paul, you've got to go to the Starlight Club. It was in Redcar. There's a wonderful magician on there." And I said, "Really?" She raved about this. Another customer came on. They'd been seeing this guy. I said, "Well, what did he do?" And I can't remember all of it, but the 2 things I do remember, he only did about 3 tricks. 2 things I remember. It's amazing. He gets this rope and he cuts it in 2 and he puts it back together again. And I thought, oh. And he's got these metal rings and he joins them all up. Ding! It's only you and me, us magicians, who see this stuff all the time.
Yeah.
They never see it. So to them, it's new.
I suppose, yeah.
Fresh. So, yeah, throw the deck out. I think I would have to sit down and write new gags though for it.
But that's probably the problem, isn't it? Is that we can take those things, and if you are just doing them as the tricks themselves, if the trick of tossed out deck is you are finding 3 cards, then it's the same whoever does it. But if it's something entirely different because the presentation and the gags and the business around it, and that's what you were saying earlier, it's not the trick, it's the problem is that people aren't thinking outside of the trick anymore.
This is a good trick. This used to be in my early act, and I found it the other day in the warehouse. You seen one of them?
No.
Called the Eye of Cyclops, and they can look through this thing, and they keep it, they hang on to it, and then cards are chosen, in my case on stage, jumbo cards, and they would look at the back of the card and name the card, and they'd be right, okay? And that was called the Eye of Cyclops, and they would do that 3 times. So I had the card here, the fella looking through here, I had him sit on the card, fella look through there, you know, and there's a lot of lines in there.
Yeah.
And then the last one can't see anything at all, and it's a blank card. I've searched for years for one of them, and I couldn't find them anywhere. They're not sold anymore. I couldn't find anybody who'd make them for me, so we'd sell them in the shop, because it's such a strong routine.
Yeah. And I mean, so with the stuff you're selling in the shop, are you sort of trying not to sell routines because you want magicians to sort of think for themselves, or?
You should think for yourself. You should take the trick as it comes. I never used to read the instructions, unless it said you will break it. You know,
Yeah.
I would take it out and play with it and see what I came up with, or see if I could figure out what was supposed to happen, and then I would read the instructions. Ken Brook was the only dealer who sold entertaining instructions.
Right.
He was the only man. Everything I bought, I performed.
Right.
You know, mostly because he'd done it over and over and over again himself. The greatest magic dealer I ever met or saw, or what was Ken Brook. But even then, when I bought what is magic speak, the chop cup.
Yeah.
All right. I'll ignore that. I bought the chop cup. Where is it? It's okay. It's over there. We have lots of phones. Ignore them. What happened was, I got rid of all the little bits that came with it. There was a velvet bag which you carried it on in. Not in my clubs, you didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, carry a little velvet bag on, darling, and well, nowadays it's more than acceptable. But there was a glass came with it and a handkerchief. Hey, cut to the nitty gritty. What is the trick?
Yeah.
You know, the essential part of the trick is you look in there and you see a card. Essential, you know.
Yeah.
So it was. I got rid of all that. And Ken used to sell chop cups all over the place. And he said to me, "You were in Huddersfield last week, weren't you, Paul?" "How do you know that?" "Orders for chop cups." We're back to, why do something somebody else is doing, you know? There's so much magic out there.
But I mean, you know, to be honest, nobody could do the chop cup like you do it without looking like you anyway, could they? Well, it's a very distinctive presentation, isn't it?
Well, in fact, one guy entered a talent contest, and the judges voted him as the winner, but the presiding officer said no, he's not going to come anywhere because he's just done Paul Daniels' act. Right. And the judge had been my director a few years before.
Yeah.
Why run the risk? Why run? I mean, there's bits in Matt King. I'll tell you, there's 3 bits of Matt King's act that I believe I could do very well. I believe I could deliver it and sell it, and I believe it would get a lot. I would love to do it.
Yeah.
I will never do them. Never. I would think a lot less of myself if I did.
But you're in it, you know, do you still, when you see those three things, do you think, right, okay, what can I do? Do you know, I mean, it's this kind of creative thing, because, I mean, what you're saying is you have to be constantly creative. Do you not find that difficult? I mean, I tell you what I was going to ask you, when you were doing the TV, and you did TV for forever, and, you know, you launched, you're the reason I'm a magician, you're the reason probably 90% of the people of my age are professional magicians, which I'm sorry you've got that responsibility there, Paul.
I feel so guilty.
Yeah, I'm just.
Yeah, but when we were doing them.
But when you were doing them, you were constantly having to create new things. I mean, it was. I mean, did that not just become painful in the end because you were having to sort of?
At the time, I thought it was fun.
Right.
At the time, I thought I was having fun. When it ended, it was like a big weight went off my shoulders. I didn't realise how I'd been doing that for so long, you know.
And how had you been doing it?
365 days a year, 24 hours, non-stop, riding along, see a motorbike and go, write this down, Deb. And I would have thought of a new way, a different presentation of vanishing a motorbike. Example.
Yeah.
When John Fisher wanted an elephant vanish, he wanted it in the open air. He didn't want it to be using an aha, you know, one of those dips in the ground.
Yeah.
Eventually he said, I want it on a football pitch. And so I knew all about the gauze version and the flap at the back and walk them out and this and the other. None of those applied. And I just doodled this completely new method of doing it. And I think it was the Sun newspaper or the Mirror published a method of using the perspective of the camera, which was nonsense if you watched it because we flagged the thing out. But in any case, I would have considered that to be a camera trick in that condition.
Yeah.
I really don't like camera tricks. And I don't like staging something in a place where we know those are stooges in the background who are ignoring the mirror. You know?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. By all means, use a mirror on a stage, in a set situation, but not where this is supposed to be a car park or something like that, you know, because we know it can't work there. And there's one going the rounds where does he vanish or the girl vanishes or appears on a bed with the audience sitting behind. And if you watch the two women in this corner, they're going as she goes down behind the mirror. I mean, I hate that kind of magic, you know. So I devised a new method. There's always a way. There's always a way to do it. And
so, I mean, so presumably, if we're having someone like John Fisher adding all these restrictions, was actually helpful in a sense that it kind of limits your.
Helpful in one way, but it limited it in another way because it wasn't until afterwards I thought we should have vanished the elephant in the studio.
Yeah.
And then the next season said, "Did you see this last year?" Well, a lot of people thought because we were in the studio and then done it in the open air, which would have added to the magic side of it, you know.
But had you been asked to do it in the studio, possibly you would have gone for the gauze version or the mirror version or the flat version and
all of them.
But
I might have mixed them up.
Yeah.
I do like mixing things, and I like moving load chambers.
Right.
You know, so having shown one area where the girl couldn't possibly be, as I reveal another area where she couldn't be, it's moved.
Yeah.
And I also like illusions where, well, most of my illusions, the assistant has no choice. My actions create the perfect timing.
Right.
How can I say that, yes. I'll invent off my head, but holding a cloth up in front of a girl who's going to go down a trapdoor, she might go down too early, or she might go down too late. Okay?
Yeah.
But if the trapdoor has a cable connected to the bar you're lifting up, when it's at the perfect height, she'll be released.
Yeah.
You might hear, as she goes down, but
she'll go down at the right time.
she'll go down at the right time.
So there's an element of control there then, which is really important in magic, isn't there? Which is knowing exactly when things are going to happen.
You have to know about angles. Angles are vital. You know that.
Yeah.
You have to have an assistant that is trained not to move until the right moment, because they will kill the applause, stone dead. They can create applause, they can extend applause, and they can kill applause. And people don't bother. Oh, just bring it on, love, you know, the trail, like when I do this, you know. Oh, please, you know.
Well, look, Paul, I'm really conscious that I've taken up an hour of your time.
The wife has left me.
Yeah. But I suppose what if I was going to sort of cut to the chase with all of this, and because this is going on a site aimed at trying to make magic better in inverted commas, or more, yeah, better is the best word I can come up with for it. What would you? I mean, you're someone who's seen it all. You've seen all the fads, and you've worked through it. You've maintained a level that no one else has really done. I mean, you really have been up there the whole time.
Stop. I'm just going to turn the blush tone down. Okay.
So I'll cut that bit out, Paul. But what do you? I mean, if you could sort of take magic, if someone put you in charge, what would you do?
I would stop all children's magic shows.
Would you?
I realise that upsets a lot of my mates who do very good children's magic shows, but there is a psychological problem. Those children grow up, and in their heads they remember enjoying a magic show when they were a child, so they think magic is for children.
Yeah.
That's why they don't book you into a cabaret or a theatre. A professional promoter might, but most people having their weddings and all that, they won't book you for cabaret because they enjoyed you when they were a child.
Yeah.
So they think it's childish.
So
I'd stop all children's magic shows.
So you'd stop all children's magic shows, but what? Something more positive for the magicians then. What can we do as a sort of community? I hate that word, but
well, never leave your money in the dressing room.
All right.
Rule two, watch non-magic shows and try to figure out how they are staged, how it's delivered. If you are a silent act, I would be seriously going to look at the kind of music concerts that you want behind you so that you will be better. I would study, and it's all on the internet now if you don't want to go out, but I would go out. I mean, I love live theatre, and I would pick up lighting tricks from them. Even if you're just going to do stand-up, if you go and see Jackie Mason, he flies in a red frame, or one of his concerts, there was a red frame, you know, behind him with a globe just going slowly round, globe of the world.
Yeah.
And he was, I mean, if you were doing, example, magic from all over the world, what a nice set, you know, and easy links, you know,
yeah,
that kind of thing. And I would also not just learn close-up magic. It's very good. I enjoy it. I do it all the time, you know. I very rarely get paid to do close-up magic. When I do, I get a lot of money. And I manage to get great reactions and all that. But it's not enough. If a booker comes to me and says, could you make a car appear? Yes. Because I've studied illusion. I've studied black art. I've studied lighting in theatre. I know about sound systems. It ain't accidental where I am.
Yeah.
I'm there because I've studied business techniques, sales techniques, you know. Why? Well, because anybody can do a trick. You know, you can give me Joe Soap and we'll go down to Dabby's or the Paul Daniels magicshop.co.uk.
It's all right, I'll put a link.
and I could handpick half a dozen tricks, and by tomorrow night I could have him out in London doing close-up magic round a table.
Yeah.
With completely self-working tricks that would be just as amazing to the public as the best of our finger flingers.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Take acting lessons.
Yeah, no, that's what I trained as, so I've got a head start.
Yeah, there you go.
But
okay, my son.
Thank you very much indeed, Paul. I really appreciate it, and I'll drop you a line with an edited version for you to look at. And
whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to do with it. You can't ruin my career. I've been working hard at doing that myself for years.
No, but I like to make sure people are happy. Good stuff. Thank you very much, Paul.
Take care.
Appreciate it, Bobby.